Hi, Eric. I don't know if you
Good morning.
heard me earlier. It's not only I can't talk to you soon enough, I can't talk to anyone but you for quite some time, just for a while, just for a little period of time. I actually tweeted at Chuck Todd yesterday, which I've never done, but he went the entire show without even bringing up the leader of the Republican Party, the front runner for 2024, Mike Pompeo, Fox News, openly cheering for Putin. Not one question to Rob Portman about that. And yet every question, I think, to Mark Warner was phrased under, didn't Biden made a mistake with this? Right? I mean, it's the premise of the questions in the media, isn't it, Eric? I mean,
Yeah, two quick things. George Stephanopoulos, to his credit, asked Thom Cotton 3 times yesterday.
Yeah.
Why can't you just condemn Trump's comments about Putin? Because Cotton is now pretending to be, a traditional Republican hawk in Russia's evil empire. And 3 times he asked him, why can't you condemn? Oh, I don't speak for President Trump. It was so spineless and pathetic to watch. And every Republican should be asked that. So, I mean, but in terms of Chuck Todd, it's amazing. I just wrote today a press run, the idea that, the Republican bromance of Putin is going to hurt them in November, is going to hurt them politically. It's a bad idea when the new Gallup poll shows 85% of Americans have an unfavorable view of Russia right now, the lowest in 3 decades. And you have major portions of the Republican Party, including its leader, out there praising Putin, and there's absolutely no coverage or suggestion or chatter that
I wonder what emboldened I wonder what emboldened Putin to do this, right? I mean, exactly. By the way,
and there's just absolutely no chatter that this is a political problem for Republicans in November.
Thank you. Yeah, Kate tweeted, Fox News is hardening their views on Putin and Russia because they finally realized the entire effing world is against their narrative. I mean, when even they've been like, uh-oh. But you're right. The fact that, what's his name? He had Rob Portman on, all but Senate unity on Russia. No mention at all of the leader of their party, former Secretary of State. I mean, and meanwhile, as you say, every week is Democrats in disarray. But this is all fine. This is all fine. What's happening in the GOP on Russia, right?
Right. I mean, Trump has made no U-turn on Russia. He's made no U-turn. He's made no pivot in terms of Putin. He's ride or die. He's been his entire life. But yeah, I mean, so the press wants to pretend, Republicans got the message. Oh, they understand. As I pointed out, and the Republican official, the RNC Twitter account had something, Biden is a failed president or something like that based on Ukraine. And as I pointed out in a couple of my columns, if after, and we might have talked about this last week, I mean, if after Iraq had invaded Kuwait in 1990, and the Democratic Party had just gone, declared that George H.W. Bush was a failure, and this was all weakness on it, the DC press would have lost its mind and would have absolutely written nonstop about the electoral ruin that the Democratic Party is, because you cannot question, the president of the United States during a time of war, especially when he's blameless in terms of the Biden situation.
And you can't say it's an outlier when it's...
Yeah, the press shrugs, so this is just normalizing. Oh, I guess this is what the Republican Party does now. They side with the Kremlin over the West Wing.
Well, as we were just saying, it'd be different if it was just an outlier. It's the leader of your party. It's the front runner for your nomination. It's the last president. Right. It's the last Secretary of State. It's not... Well, I mean, your pieces stop whitewashing GOP's Putin worship, American politicians cheerleading a dictator as he sends tanks into a neighboring country and bombs a sovereign nation ought to be a huge news story. It ought to be the only news story.
Right.
Yeah. And you just said, but that's not how the treasonous behavior is being portrayed by the press, which for days has matter-of-factly described the GOP as being divided over the prospect of, the tyrannical Russian leader launching an invasion. I mean, they really are going to both sides us into World War III, right? I mean, that's what you write about.
Yeah, I mean, and the New York Times over the weekend had something like, Trump's praise of Putin, puts Republicans in a bind. It's just kind of this minor passing issue that the leader of the Republican Party sides with Russia against the United States. I mean, this is the most shocking behavior ever. There was a Columbia professor quoted in the New York Times that said this would have been like Eisenhower cheering, the Soviet Union's invasion of Czechoslovakia. I mean, it's just unthinkable.
Yeah.
This is the most bizarre foreign policy policy ever uttered by a former president or any major American political figure. And the Times and the Washington Post treat it as, well, this is kind of awkward for the Republican Party. It's
as
no
you
big
said,
deal.
They called it a novel phenomenon. It's
Right.
like, oh well, this is new.
It is novel. We'll tell you that.
Yeah.
That's not the word I would use, but my God.
You said Beltway Press treats this as nothing more than an inter-party squabble over taxes or immigration policy, not persons of a party tacitly supporting the largest land invasion in Europe since World War II. Thank you. You just said a possibly brutal blitzkrieg that could leave thousands of civilians dead. You said today's kind words for Putin would be like 19. You talked about that. We mentioned that already. Saddam Hussein. I mean, we can't even do the game anymore if Democrats had.
Right.
Our head just explodes preemptively. If Hillary had, if Obama had. I don't know. I'm imagining the Supreme Court nomination. Imagine if a black woman said, I like beer, and was completely hostile to every senator on the panel. Would she be confirmed? You just said Putin appeasement coverage also lacks context. What does this mean? That one of America's two major political parties supports a tyrant who invades a neighbor without cause? A U.S. party that politely regurgitates Kremlin talking points? I mean, you just said stop whitewashing the madness. Someone else tweeted, still waiting for someone to give Biden credit on his handling of Ukraine crisis. This has been flawless. The world is marching to our beat. And you just said, but inflation. That explains in one tweet his approval ratings, doesn't it?
It really does. And there was a really bad poll over the weekend, ABC, and it's obvious, and it's all based, most of it seems to be based on absolutely buried Biden on the economy, despite record job numbers, GDP, retail spending. I happened to visit my local mall over the weekend. I had to check the calendar. I thought it was December. I mean, it was packed.
Yeah.
You would have thought it was the height of the Christmas shopping season. People are spending money with total abandon. But the press has chosen a different narrative. And just going back real quick to the Republicans and Putin and things like that, the normalizing and the whitewashing. The Washington Post over the weekend, they said, well, this is the new isolationist wing of Trump Republicans, right? And so, it's not uncommon for a populist politician to appear to appeal to isolationism. That's not what's happening here. They're not saying,
this is rooting for America's enemies. This is not isolationism.
Right. This is very specific. We love Putin. This is not an isolationist argument. It's we prefer Putin over the president of the United States. So just say that, explain that's where the Republican Party is today.
Well, the Kremlin has accused Ukraine of prolonging the military conflict by refusing to negotiate as Russia pressed on with this invasion. And you said again, for Westerners, these obvious Kremlin lies and contradictions might seem baffling, but for Russians, this is what Putin's been doing for 20 years. The fog of unknowability. The goal is to make all facts mysterious. Exactly what they try to do here. Right.
Trump absolutely adopted it, but now people are getting a better view at it. I think we had the Russian ambassador on CBS a week ago saying we will not invade. This is a peacekeeping mission. The Kremlin sends out these statements. Well, we want to negotiate. I mean, everything is just total contradiction and a gaslighting, and it's meant to cause, well, you're supposed to follow them down this rabbit hole. Oh, but this is wrong. It's a pointless exercise. But it's one that Trump absolutely duplicated for 4 years in the White House, and now we're getting a taste of the Kremlin version.
And some of these right-wing hot takes, I don't know who this is. Putin's doing this because he knows the West is divided and distracted. The West spends more time talking about pronouns than it does about things that matter. And you said pronouns force Putin to invade. These hot takes just get hotter and hotter. I mean, it's Russia has been utterly crushed. And you said so smart of Fox to go all in on Putin. Well, now they appear to be like in mid-pivot and don't know what to do. Exactly.
It never made any sense. I mean, everyone knew where this was going. Everyone assumed there was going to be invasion, and they kind of marched themselves into this alley. But they don't care, right? They gaslight with the best of them. Tucker Carlson will pivot, and now he's kind of blaming Putin for the invasion. And everyone in the real world says, oh my God, he's changed his mind. He doesn't care. His viewers don't care. So there's no consequences. So, in terms of programming and rhetoric, that frees you up to do whatever you want. Any sane or rational person, if they're laying out, their rhetoric, they'd say, oh, geez, I got to be careful, because if he invades, then what am I going to do? But when there are no rules, you can say whatever you want, and then you just pretend you didn't say it, or you pretend you were right the whole time. That's what being in a hermetically sealed alternate universe allows you to do.